That's okay, Larry. Yeah, no, it's fine. We got her. Yeah, no worries at all. It's all good. Hi, I'm Q. It's really nice to see you today. Welcome to episode 4. We were going to have Larry on today. Larry was going to talk about loss, but unfortunately, Larry lost someone last night, and Larry's not quite feeling up to talking today. So I said, "It's okay, buddy. I got this one." Loss is a pretty important topic. Really kind of fits into risk management and preparation and, you know, being aware of your environment. You know, what is loss? I would say that loss is a reduction in physical state. What does it mean when you lose something or someone? Pretty heavy topic. You know, we can have a total loss, which is an absolute reduction in physical state. We can have a partial loss, like an alarm on a car while you're shooting a YouTube video, or YouBoob, as Larry tries to state. We might want to trademark that. But, you know, when you have a total loss, something's gone. Can't get it back. Won't be the same. When we lose a person in a total loss, it's a really difficult process to go through because we still feel very attached to that person that we've lost. And it helps if they're older, but helps is a pretty deep term when you're dealing with loss. You know, we all celebrate when a baby's born and comes into this earth, enters our environment, our life. There's a lot of joy, a lot of innocence, a lot of celebration. And when we get a puppy, or when we start off a new relationship, or something's new, there's a lot of joy and innocence and potential when something's born. But on the tail end of born is death, the end, transition where that person or thing or physical material property, when you lose it in a total loss, you know, it's gone forever. Other than your memories and the energy that you absorbed from that person or thing or the experiences you had before the loss. So Larry was talking, and another person was talking through the situation and talked about gratitude. Because even when we lose something or we suffer a loss, we still have that person or that thing in us, in our energy, in our entanglement in the quantum space. You know, their or its energy is entangled in us. There's a memory, there's an existence, there's an energy from that other thing inside of us, especially in our hearts. Our hearts are our most energetic and most sensitive parts of our body. I mean, be debated about our brain as well too, but our hearts are where our emotions and our soul and our existence really resides. you know Maybe it's because the heart is, it's not a pump, it's actually a vortex. The way the muscles move and twist, it creates a vortex effect that vortexes our blood. It's fluid dynamics, and we don't really think of our heart as a vortex, but a vortex creates a very large electromagnetic field. So, kind of how I look at it, or what I've put together, is our hearts are our source of our energy because there's a vortex. You could debate that our brains are where our, energy field is primarily domiciled, which is fair. There's an argument for that, but our brain doesn't really vortex, doesn't really ring itself, does it? Do 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 do. So in that vortex effect, we actually create a very large magnetic field. I think one of the studies I was reading was with an ECG, you can detect the electromagnetic field from the heart 22 feet away. So we have an energy field around us. I mean, it's going to depend on how hard the heart's working, how much the mitochondria are working, and how much um, cellular respirations going on in the heart will affect the magnetic or electromagnetic field around the heart. But I think this is why it's so powerful to hug another person, because we're literally connecting energy. And when you know that you're never going to hug another person again, never feel that energy of that other person, that embrace, that touch, that feeling. Jeez. Don't break your heart, man. Don't break your heart. Chill out. It's okay. It just changes. You've crossed the chasm. You've crossed that bridge of no return. You're never going to see that person again, or you're not going to be able to hear their voice. Oh, I lost a really dear friend of mine, pretty famous musician, in 2012, and I got a phone call from the neighbor asking if I'd heard about my friend Bruce. And it was really weird because I was actually standing in my dining room and looking out my rear window at Bruce's house when I got the phone call. And I'd noticed that Bruce's light was on, and I knew he'd gone away for Christmas, but it was weird. I thought maybe he's home, or why is his light on? His light was never on the back because we shared a common backyard. Our dogs used to play together and we were pretty close friends. We hung out quite a bit, and it's just I was staring at his house, and my neighbor said that Bruce died of a heart attack a few days before that. I couldn't believe it. He was younger. He had a little daughter. He was an amazing musician. So incredible. He'd been sharing his new album he was writing for another famous artist with me, and he was so talented. He was so special. And I just staring at his house, and I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, I'm never going to see Bruce again. I hung up the phone and just sat in a chair, just wept, staring at his house. And a couple days later, I had a bunch of unlistened to voice messages in my phone, and one came up that was going to be deleted, and it was from Bruce. Now listen to that message. And it was tough, but I could hear his voice. I heard his voice. I saved that message for a long time. But Bruce was gone. I just said to myself, Bruce might be gone in this body, but he's still in my heart. Once in a while, I'd just say out to the universe or out to the energy field, hey, Bruce, look at the music I'm working on, or look at what I'm doing. And a few times I heard his voice and just said, yeah, that's awesome, isn't it? He always had this kind of really distinct, raspy voice, and just made me so happy to feel his energy. I've had a few friends that have committed suicide, and a few friends and family members died of cancer, and a couple heart attacks. It's hard, loss. It's heavy. We're all going to go through it. None of us are getting out of this alive. It's one of my dad's good sayings, or he poached it from somewhere, but it's true. None of us are going to get out of this alive in our physical sense, in our physical state. We'll get out of here on the energy portal, but as you see me now and as you are now, when our physical state ends, it's the end. And as much as new life is a part of our journey, death is too. So as we get older, more people die around us or they get sick. And, some of what Larry's dealing with made me reflect. And, tears are important, letting that grief out and paying your respects to that person that touched your life or influenced your life or you loved or part of your family or your friends. You gotta grieve, connect to your heart, let that grief out, accept it. Can't change it, but a lot of us are dealing with a term that I kind of came to me was that there's total loss, but we've also
constantly got fractional loss. And when I think of wellness, or, you know, Larry was talking about the whole risk benefit analysis, but, you know, if you don't look at risk or loss properly and do things in your life to minimize your risk, you're potentially going to have fractional loss or partial loss. May not be a total loss, but when we're dealing with health, illness or not being well is going to be a fractional loss. Things may not be operating properly, or you may lose a portion of your function, or um, your ability to operate in an efficient manner. So I had a friend who got really sick and was in the hospital, and his liver was 90% damaged. Was told he was going to need a liver transplant. Holy man, another pretty famous musician. And he called me up and was just shattered. I said, well, I work in metabolic sciences, man. The liver is a really powerful and awesome organ. It's the only organ that can really regenerate. You can take 90% of your liver out and it'll grow back, kind of like salamander limbs. Some of the work that was done by Becker, all these guys looking at the bioelectrics, and the liver actually has some really interesting metabolic and oxygen state that allows it will regenerate and grow back. So I said to him, well, okay, I'm not 100% certain of what your clinical prognosis is, but if it was me, I would start fasting and I would start looking at your risks. What are you doing in your life? Are you drinking? And he was quite heavily, pretty, he was in the music scene pretty heavily. And, what are you eating? Are you drinking juices? He was drinking orange juice every day, on top of drinking. And he was eating a lot of deep fried foods. And yeah, wasn't really taking care of himself, a lot of sugar as well, too. And I said, well, if you understand how the liver works, it's constantly detoxing. So that's one of its main um, functions, is to remove toxins and break down aldehydes and alcohol and fructose. And I explained to him that, fructose is essentially the same metabolic path in the liver to be broken down. So fructose, which is the plant sugars, is affecting your liver. So then you should think about, are you getting a good light exposure? Or are you thinking about, you know, all these different things? How much carbs or deep fried foods are you eating? All these things are going to affect your liver. And so I had a talk with him, and he said, Q, I'll do anything to not lose my liver. And it was going to be really expensive. He was in the US and he didn't have health insurance. So it was really serious. It was a huge loss of his health for him. And so he turned it around, started fasting and doing grounding, and cut out fruits and fruit juice, and stopped eating carbohydrates, and started doing some fasting. And they're now doing a scientific research study on him to see, the doctors couldn't believe it. His liver came back. He minimized his loss. And now he's born again. He's got his health back. So when we look at fractional loss, you've lost some of the function, or you've ended up in a state like diabetes or even heart disease. I've seen incredible stories of people that have reversed their heart diseases, like blockages, reduced calcium. Like it shouldn't be able to happen, but our bodies are miraculous. And if we give them a chance to heal, and if we understand what the risk is or what the problem is, we can reverse these things. So, but if you die, you're not the only one that's affected by it. Just like if you get sick, you have a heavy fractional loss of function, break your neck, end up in a wheelchair, or, you know, end up destroying your kidneys by eating too much sugar or carbohydrates, or, get fibrosis in your kidneys, or, glycation, which I'll cover in a few episodes. Glycation is a really big problem that most people don't even understand what glycation is. Advanced glycation end products. I mean, whew, that's the big problem with sugar. I mean, insulin and, you know, yeah, endothelial damage and, the whole, yeah, there's big issues there too, and can cause lots of liver problems as well. But, oh, sorry, you know, just don't want people to get lost on their health journey, or, get bad advice, or be told that there's no hope. Like my friend with his liver, he was told, if you don't get this liver replacement, you're going to need an organ replacement or you're going to die. That's what he was told. His eyes were green, and he's jaundiced, and he was failing, but he came back. So there's always hope as long as you don't die. But if you get sick, then your family's going to have to deal with it. If you get cancer, then it's not just you that's infected, it's everyone else around you. You know, you know, I say in a lot, but you know, trying to stress. There's hope, you know. Bodies are miracles. Mitochondria, they're our friends. Our bodies aren't against us. They're here to try and help. They want to fix us, but we keep on doing stupid stuff, keep on breaking them. Some of it, a lot of it's just out of ignorance. We don't understand our risk profiles or how certain things are affecting our bodies. Why do our fingers go numb? Why do we see floaters in front of our eyes? Why do we get macular degeneration? Or why, do our retinas detach? Or, all these health and things that we're told are genetics, or that's just unlucky that it happens. No. Sometimes you can get hit by a car, but did you look both ways before you cross the street? Our parents and our grandparents and our family and our friends teach us things, trying to help us to minimize our risks, to keep us safe. Wear your seatbelt. Don't put your cell phone up to your head. Understand radiation. Don't touch exposed wires or stick a fork in an outlet. Don't touch the hot stove. Trying to be taught these lessons, so because other people have had to learn the hard way. I have a few friends in wheelchairs and a whole bunch of friends that have died, and you want to learn about risk. You want to protect yourself and want to prevent loss if you can. You got to think, you got to plan, you got to understand what an environment is. Don't start a fire in the middle of your house. No, probably going to have a loss. I understand that world very, very well. I was in risk management for many, many years. Saw some really horrible things. And dealing with people that have had extreme loss, is one thing. It's so heavy, so hard. But seeing people with fractional or partial loss, that's not fun either. It's easier to prevent stuff than to fix it or to have to deal with.
consequences of a loss. You know? Yeah. So hopefully I've covered a bit of loss and why it's so important to understand food and metabolism and physics and quantum space of how light and magnetism and water and, you know, toxicity, all these things are really important because if you don't understand them, it may cause loss. And sometimes it'll cause catastrophic loss. So thanks for listening. And if you're enjoying this, got something out of it, just trying to share some of my learnings and stuff I've observed and put together. Other scientists or doctors or teachers or friends, family have taught me. You know, some things I've had to learn the hard way myself. You know, I take on quite a bit of risk at times, including making a YouTube channel. But, you know, I want to try and download some of this knowledge or my perception of knowledge. I may not get everything right. There's a risk of that. I mean, but read lots of scientific papers and been exposed to a lot of really neat scientists and people that have taught me or opened up different ways of thinking, changed my beliefs, you know, things that I thought that I knew weren't the way things worked, you know. I looked at carbohydrates and just totally as energy. I didn't look at carbohydrates in terms of what they do to hormones and how our body processes them and, you know, the risks of certain plants or, you know, just there's 1,000 topics that I've got exposed to and dug into deep to try and learn. So now I can hopefully pass on some of these pieces in more of a humorous sense than talking about loss. But man, I cried earlier today because, you know, you go through loss, you lose things, you know, lose people, but you got to deal with the trauma. You got to grieve. You got to work your way through so that you don't carry it and it doesn't destroy your life, or you can't see the light because you're so buried in the dark, you know. You know, it's life. It's not easy a lot of the time, but it's also glorious and loving and connecting and social and, you know, take care of your family and friends and tell them that you love them, give them hugs, you know. Do you know? Do you know how much they love you? How much they need you? Be smart, figure things out, take care of yourself. Don't think you'll do it next week or next year. I'll tell them I'm sorry sometime. No, you got one life. Don't mess it up. And if you did mess some stuff up, go apologize for it. Apologize to yourself too, because we screw stuff up sometimes, and that's okay. If you don't crash once in a while, you're not trying hard enough. If you don't say you're sorry, then I guess you never made mistakes. But, you know, I'm sorry for a bunch of things. Am I going to let it destroy my life? That I made mistakes and you did some things that hurt me or hurt others, or, you know, my intentions were good, but, you know, one of my friends crashed a car and killed two friends and put another guy, made him a vegetable. That was hard, really hard. Now he drinks too much. Drinking's not going to help the situation, not going to bring our friends back. But boy, if you didn't have to learn really hard lessons, then we're blessed. Some people, they're just not here, but we are. So celebrate Live your life. Forgive yourself. Forgive others. Don't forget the people that loved you and took care of you and helped you. And give give me some love. I'll give you some love. Hopefully this is a good journey. I'll leave episode 4 at this point. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and all that social media, blah, blah, blah stuff. But thanks for watching, and catch you in episode 5. And minimize your loss. Embrace grief if you have to. Love your life. You only got one in this incarnation anyway. From my heart to yours, thanks for watching. Q, I eat electrons.